Welcome to the battlefield of brains, where strategy meets chaos and every move burns with intensity. Watch grandmasters clash, pieces fall, and legends rise. Kasakori opens with NF3, sending his knight forward like a cautious scout, testing Wesley So's defenses, probing the center while avoiding early commitments yet hinting at flexible development. Wesley answers with D5, claiming central ground with firm authority, signaling he's ready for a strategic battle where every tempo matters, and giving no room for quiet build-up. Corley pushes G3, preparing his fianchetto bishop as if sharpening a long-range spear, aiming to pressure the dark squares and slowly build a controlled kingside formation. Wesley develops Ching6, constructing a solid Caro-Kann-like shell, reinforcing D5 and setting up a calm but sturdy platform for future central counterstrikes. Corley plays BG2, the bishop sliding into its fianchetto bunker, ready to breathe fire across the long diagonal and support subtle central tension. Wesley answers with BG4, pinning the knight like a sudden grip around Corley's coordination, injecting early annoyance and hinting at latent tactical ideas. Corley castles, moving his king to safety while unleashing rook potential. The camp feels organized, preparing for a long positional duel. Wesley replies with Essex, building an iron fortress over the dark squares, locking the center structure, and making his position feel heavy, controlled, and ready for development. Corley pushes C4, challenging the center directly, shaking Wesley's structure as if testing the walls of an enemy fortress, demanding a response. Wesley develops ends even, reinforcing F6 and C5 squares while keeping his structure compact, preparing to untangle and perhaps counter in the center. Corley's CX5 breaks the tension, striking at Wesley's central pawn and opening lines, hoping to nudge the game toward active, dynamic play. Wesley recaptures X5, maintaining a balanced structure while subtly opening lines for his bishops, keeping his position healthy and flexible. Corley plays D3, stabilizing his center and allowing his pieces smoother development, as if anchoring his army before the real clashes begin. Wesley develops NGF6, adding pressure to E4 and G4, bringing another fighter into the arena and signaling readiness for active middle-game skirmishes. Corley continues with NC3, reinforcing pressure on D5 and fighting for central influence, increasing the tension with every new piece joining the fray. Wesley plays BC5, aiming his bishop at Corley's kingside like a laser, provoking potential tactics around the light squares while upping the urgency. Corley answers with BF4, planting the bishop aggressively toward the center, challenging Wesley's setup and hinting at future central blows. Wesley castles, securing his king and connecting his rooks, signaling that the opening phase is nearly over and the real battle can begin. Corley plays QC2, aligning queen and bishop toward the king's side, quietly building pressure while keeping multiple tactical themes in reserve. Wesley responds with Q7, stepping into a flexible square that supports the center, watches the king's side, and prepares rook coordination for coming clashes. Corley strikes with E4, a bold central thrust that feels like he's kicking down the door, challenging Wesley's structure and demanding immediate clarification in the heart of the battlefield. Wesley snaps back with DXC4, seizing the pawn and opening lines, turning Corley's ambition into a potential weakness while sharpening tactical edges around the center. Corley captures with BXF3, removing the knight and trying to disrupt Wesley's harmony, as if peeling away a key defender before the real storm arrives. Wesley recaptures bx53, restoring balance while centralizing a powerful bishop, suddenly aiming dangerous diagonals that hint at soon-to-come fireworks. Corley continues with Nefiv, his knight leaping forward like a fearless raider, eyeing f7 and g4, injecting tension and daring Wesley to respond accurately. Wesley answers bix f5, eliminating the advanced knight and calmly diffusing Corley's threat, showing no fear as he clears the battlefield of Corley's forward spear. Corley recaptures qx f5, dragging his queen deep into enemy territory with swagger, eyeing weaknesses and trying to keep Wesley uncomfortable. Wesley replies kjtou. Wait, no, correction. Wesley actually plays Radid, bringing a rook into action and reinforcing the center, tightening the battlefield with quiet but deadly preparation. Corley responds with Radon, mirroring Wesley's coordination, positioning his rook like a siege tower, ready to contest the open file and pressure D targets. Wesley plays g5, a fierce pawn lunge that feels like he's swinging open the gates and charging forward, aiming to rattle Corley's kingside stability. Corley retreats b2, pulling the bishop back to safety while keeping tactical ideas alive, preparing to reinforce his kingside before Wesley's storm breaks. Wesley slams forward with g4, a ruthless thrust that tears open lines toward Corley's monarch, showing he's not here for a slow positional dance, but a full assault. Corley reacts with Fowler, trying to build a shield from the incoming wave, using his pawn as a desperate sandbag against Wesley's crashing attack. Wesley captures gx-f8, ripping open Corley's kingside defenses with violent precision, exposing lanes that suddenly make the board feel terrifying for white. Corley responds rx-f3, grabbing the pawn, but stepping deeper into the fire, hoping active pieces will compensate for the wounds in his position. Wesley plays rx stone, exchanging on the open file with surgical calm, removing key defenders and pushing the game further into tactical chaos. Corley recaptures bx don, trying to maintain structure, but every exchange feels like Wesley is tightening a noose around the white king. Wesley strikes with bd4, planting the bishop like a spear at the heart of Corley's camp, slicing through diagonals and threatening discoveries that make the position shiver. Corley answers r5, pushing his rook aggressively forward, attempting counterplay and trying to distract Wesley from the pressure bearing down on his king. Wesley coolly plays q6, centralizing the queen with dominance, eyeing mating nets, forks, and pressure everywhere as the tension climbs toward a breaking point. Corley hits qd3, pulling his queen back to reconnect the defense, trying to patch holes around his king while still keeping an eye on counterplay along the central files. Wesley answers bxd3, slicing off the bishop with cold precision, removing a key defender and further shredding Corley's already fragile structure. Corley fires back with rg5, a desperate but energetic check, hoping activity can buy him time as his king's shelter collapses piece by piece. Wesley calmly steps to kite, sliding into safety while letting Corley's attack evaporate, turning the tables as Black's threats grow heavier with each move. Corley captures qxc3, grabbing the bishop and trying to breathe life into his position, but the exposed king and scattered pieces still spell danger everywhere. Wesley plays r8, doubling down on central pressure, pointing his rook like a battering ram, and preparing to invade with unstoppable force. Corley activates BC2, trying to coordinate his remaining forces, setting up defensive nets while keeping an eye on potential tactical tricks. Wesley answers Q6, tightening the grip around the center, threatening discoveries and radiating pressure toward both wings as the storm intensifies. Corley plays R5, shifting the rook again like a restless defender, trying to plug holes and hold off the impending doom for just a little longer. Wesley hits QD2 HT, a precise and venomous check, forcing Corley's king into the open as lines crack wide open under Black's relentless pursuit. Corley steps to KF3, trying to escape into the center like a king on the run, hoping activity will give him chances to survive the chase. Wesley continues with QXC3, scooping another pawn while dragging Corley's king deeper into danger, each capture tightening the inevitable collapse. Corley answers BXT, forced to recapture and open even more files, leaving his king surrounded by open terrain and hungry black pieces. Wesley plays RD2, activating the rook with deadly intent, setting up threats from every angle and announcing the start of a decisive, finishing net. Corley brings BB3, trying to throw a piece into the path of danger, but every move feels like a bandage on a battlefield wound. Wesley pushes KG7, casually improving the king while keeping every attacking option alive, showing complete control as he prepares the final strike. Corley plays G4, launching a last-ditch pawn advance, hoping to distract Wesley or create some chaos before the position collapses entirely. Wesley replies H6, giving his king breathing room and securing the back rank, a quiet but powerful move that maintains full dominance. Corley pushes H4, trying to stir counterplay on the king side, but the position remains dire as Black's pieces loom over every escape route. Wesley plays RD3, checking with icy precision, driving the white king deeper into the maze where every square feels poisoned. Corley steps to K4, his king stumbling forward into the battlefield like a fugitive seeking shelter, hoping active squares might offer safety where none truly exists. Wesley fires Ord3, swinging the rook behind enemy lines with razor-sharp intent, surrounding the white king and preparing to weave a lethal mating web. Corley answers Kefif, pushing his king even deeper into the chaos, gambling that central activity might be his only lifeline in this brutal hunt. Wesley strikes Ngc4F, a savage knight blow that tears open the last defensive threads, checking the king while carving apart what remains of Corley's kingside. Corley flees to Kafawa, retracing his steps, but still trapped in a minefield of threats, every square feeling like a new disaster waiting to happen. Wesley calmly plays NF6, repositioning the knight with icy precision, tightening the trap around the wandering king as the noose grows smaller. Corley steps Kefif again, desperately repeating the dance, hoping to dodge Wesley's net for just a few more moves as pressure mounts around him. Wesley repeats with Ng4E, another forcing check, demonstrating total control as he patiently inches closer to the decisive breakthrough. Corley returns to K4, but every retreat feels heavier, the board shrinking around him as Wesley's forces dominate every critical file and diagonal. Wesley continues NF6, maintaining the grip with calm, repeating only to choose the right moment for the final cut, showing confidence in his overwhelming advantage. Corley again tries Kefif, but the king's journey now feels less like escape, and more like wandering into an inevitable ambush crafted by a master. Wesley shifts to N7, a powerful knight check that forces new concessions, driving the white king toward darker corners, where escape becomes impossible. Corley steps to kd6, marching into the heart of enemy territory, hoping that activity alone can shield him from the tightening black storm. Wesley plays rd3, checking once more with ruthless coordination, pushing the white king exactly where black wants him, exposed, isolated, and doomed. Corley tries k7, clinging to activity as his final refuge, but every move only opens new lines for Wesley's pieces to strike. Wesley pushes f6, a cold, strategic advance that closes escape squares and sets up the decisive constriction around the embattled white king. Corley replies h5, a desperate pawn thrust seeking counterplay or distraction, but its impact is little more than a whisper against black's iron grip. Wesley answers n5, planting the knight with authority, centralizing a monster piece that threatens forks, checks, and total domination. Corley strikes with rf2, bringing his rook into the fight as a final hope, trying to coordinate scattered forces before the last blow lands. Wesley responds nf3, the knight lunging forward with venom, threatening deadly forks, and choking the final squares around the collapsing white king. Corley continues b-don, pulling the bishop back as a final shield, but the defense is cracked, brittle, and barely holding together under immense pressure. Wesley plays ing5, rerouting the knight to an aggressive post, sharpening threats around every corner as the end draws near. Corley maneuvers bc2, trying to cover key squares and delay the inevitable, but black's forces already have a stranglehold on the position. Wesley delivers c3, smashing through the last real defender, grabbing material and unleashing unstoppable connected threats toward the white king. Corley pushes d2, trying to counter on the queenside and create a hopeful curtain against black's invasion, but his king remains exposed. Wesley advances c5, fixing the structure and preparing a pawn steamroller that adds even more pressure to Corley's faltering defenses. Corley tries k8, stepping aside and hoping to regroup, but Wesley's army continues marching forward with merciless precision. Wesley pushes c4, powering the pawn deeper into white territory, turning it into a weapon that cuts lines and closes escape routes. Corley storms with k8, pushing his king into the center like a rash commander seeking activity, trying to escape threats and coordinate pieces for one last desperate stand against Wesley's onslaught. Wesley So answers with c4, advancing the pawn to cut off escape squares and cramp white's coordination, quietly converting space into a suffocating advantage while keeping lethal pieces ready to pounce. Corley replies odds even, swinging his rook in with a checking cry, attempting to disorient Wesley and force concessions, a brave tactical stab that hopes to open seams in black's armor. Wesley calmly steps to gate, sidestepping the check with royal composure, refusing the bait and keeping his formation intact while patiently waiting for the decisive moment to strike. Corley retreats b-don, tucking the bishop defensively to block lines and shore up fragile squares, a compacting move that tries to buy time as the clock of danger ticks loudly. Wesley cuts to the chase with c4, the knight snatching a central pawn and tearing another hole in white's camp, a brutal material reclaim that accelerates the collapse with tactical finality. Corley fires bg4, bringing the bishop forward in a last attempt to create complications and harass black's pieces, a courageous but thin spark against Wesley's growing, coordinated pressure. Wesley seals the deal with f5, a powerful pawn thrust that locks down lines, chokes white's counterplay, and cements an irresistible grip. The final authoritative squeeze before resignation. I'll end the video here. Please, give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll keep finding the best and newest videos to share with you. Thank you so much, and I wish you all happiness and good health.